Hey, what's going on, Who That Nation? What's going on, sports fans? It is yours truly, TJ Jones, and welcome to another edition of Saints Talk with yours truly, Timothy J. Jones, right here on the Bleacher Report. So come on in, have a seat, because we have some things that we need to discuss. First off, if this is your first time checking out this live stream, I really do appreciate it. We do this every Wednesday night, okay? We do this every Wednesday. So you can come in if you love the New Orleans Saints, you love hearing about the team. Well, we'll be glad to have you. On this edition, we're going to be talking about the New Orleans Saints making some signings. And we're also going to be talking about Kellen Moore and his approach to the team and how this could actually benefit him, especially as the season goes on. But let's go ahead and get into it. The New Orleans Saints signed running back Cam Akers to their roster. And I do want to say congratulations to Cam Akers. This is a guy who pretty much bet on himself. A couple of weeks ago when the Saints had mini camp, they invited Cam Akers to take part in the mini camp. They didn't offer him a contract or anything. It was just a tryout. And Cam Akers goes to the New Orleans Saints, tries out, bets on himself, and now he walks away with a contract. Cam Akers is a guy, to me, he is easy to root for. I mean, especially when you know some of the things that he has endured throughout his time in the National Football League. But I'd go ahead and go back a little bit. And I think a lot of people, if you're from the Mississippi, Louisiana, area, you're very familiar with Cam Akers. Cam Akers, I can remember when I was staying in Mississippi at the time. I graduated from Jackson State University. Cam Akers High School, which was Clinton High School, which is about 13 to 15 miles away from Jackson, Mississippi, the capital of Mississippi. I can just remember everybody just talking about how great this and dynamic this Cam Akers was. I mean, he was Mr. Friday night. If you turn on the news, if you watch anything, Cam Akers was on it, right? I mean, he playing quarterback, playing running back. Everybody was excited to watch Cam Akers play. He was the number one rated player in the entire country, coming from Clinton High School. And he ends up going to Florida State. To me, that was a little bit of a shock because Florida State wasn't the Florida State that we grew to love, especially in the 2000s. I mean, they were a team that was trying to figure it out. But Cam Akers goes there and he plants his flag. And I can always remember, I will forever remember this. Cam Akers had an opportunity to leave Florida State when they decided to fire their coach who wasn't getting it done. And I can remember him deciding to stay at Florida State. And to me, that meant a lot, especially when you look at the modern day NFL, modern day college football with NIL. There you go. And, guys basically committing based on a check or an endorsement deal. But he had opportunity to go away and transfer, but he decided to stay at Florida State, and they didn't have a good season. But to me, I feel like that was one of the main reasons why he was drafted in the second round to the Los Angeles Rams. And he had a really good career with the Rams starting off. I can remember him in the playoffs going up against the Seattle Seahawks. To me, that was his coming out party. That was probably his best game as a pro. And after that, he started to get better and better. And it seemed as if the Rams were going to have their featured back, something that they haven't had, since Steven Jackson around this thing. But, unfortunately, he had his fair share of injuries, as, I'm going to go ahead and pinpoint here. But he had a torn Achilles. He actually tore his Achilles in both legs, man, which is, man, that stinks right there, especially when you look at how talented he was before these things happen. In 2021, he recovered remarkably fast thanks to early surgery. And, he did some different techniques, some modernized stuff called speed bridge techniques that has been really taken over when it comes to the therapy process and getting guys back on the field. but he had a serious injury. Once again, like I said, he tore his Achilles right after. So there's one of those situations where you're wondering to yourself, like, is it in the cards for me to be a professional football player going forward? But he didn't give up. I mean, he bounced around a little bit, went to the Vikings, then he went to the Texans, and once again, he went to the New Orleans Saints on a tryout, and he decided, well, I'm going to go out here, bet on myself, and he won. So congratulations to Cam Akers. I don't know what this actually means for his career. I don't know if this is going to be, oh, I'm going to play a couple preseason games and I'm not going to make the roster, or this could be the start of something special, because I know Cam Akers is a really, really talented football player. I mean, he's a guy who, once again, given the opportunity, he takes advantage of them. I can remember even with the Vikings, he showed some flashes, and he's only 25 years old. I mean, so he has a lot of tread on the tires. And I also feel that the New Orleans Saints made this decision as a wake-up call to Kendre Miller. Kendre Miller, the running back for the New Orleans Saints going into his third season, he's a guy that has all the potential. You ask any New Orleans Saints fan, any beat writer, any coach, they will tell you, and they will basically just drool over the talent that Kendre Miller has. I've said this on several episodes here of Saints Talk. Kendre Miller is his own worst enemy. If Kendre Miller does not work out with the New Orleans Saints, being that running back that they need him to be, is because of Kendre Miller. You have to be able to do the little things. You got to be able to be a student of the game. A lot of athletes feel their talent, their speed, all that stuff is going to keep them around. And that may be true. But there's going to be a time where you're probably not going to be the fastest, or injuries may occur. How are you going to be able to compensate for that? You compensate by being a very intelligent player on the field. You got to be able to do the little things. You got to rehab your body. You got to be able to go to that Microsoft tablet in order for you to stay on the field, understand adjustments, audibles, formations, etc. And you just can't count on your talent and skill set to get you by. This isn't college. In college, you got a bomb offensive line that's going to open up holes for you if you're running back, and you're going to hit your head on a goalpost most of the time. Might have to make one person miss, but you probably faster than that guy because you on your way to the NFL, and that guy's probably on his way to an insurance job in a local city. So you kind of take that stuff for granted. So you got to be able to be a student of the game. But I think that Cam Akers, if Kendre doesn't work out, he can be that complimentary back. Now, the Saints still have some very talented guys in their running back room. I mean, you got to start with Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara, his numbers have dwindled a tad bit over the last couple of years, but that has a lot to do with the way that the Saints have been structured over the last 3 to 4 years. Haven't really utilized him the way that I feel you need to utilize Alvin. When Sean Payton was the head coach of the Saints, you see them trying to come up with plays using Alvin Kamara in space. I'm hoping that Kellen Moore can be able to look at some of that film that has made Alvin Kamara who he is and utilize that. We seen him. You do it with Saquon. Saquon, very talented guy. You give him a really good offensive line. Who would have thought that he's one of the best running backs in the league? Alvin Kamara can be in that conversation. Alvin Kamara is one of those running backs that I feel a lot of people have forgotten about, and it has a lot to do with the New Orleans Saints letting him down more so than Alvin just taking a step back. I understand that he is 30 years old, and when you hit 30, everybody's just ready to basically just send you out to pasture, so to speak. But I think that Alvin Kamara has what it takes still. And you also have Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who came over from the Kansas City Chiefs last season. I feel like him being from the Baton Rouge area is helping him out tremendously. A lot of personal issues that he was dealing with when it comes to his mental health. Being around familiar surroundings may benefit him. Going to being a LSU Tiger, a former LSU Tiger, being from the Baton Rouge area, being surrounded by family, a good support system is going to benefit him. There was a couple games where he actually played in for the Saints last season. I think he did a formidable job. giving him a full season with Kellen Moore, new playbook, endless possibilities. Clyde Edwards-Helaire can be that Darren Sproles. He can be that Kenneth Gainwell, what the Eagles had in him. He can be that for the New Orleans Saints. Now you got a couple more running backs on the team. You got Devin Neal, the 6th-round pick out of Kansas. So the New Orleans Saints got different ways they can approach the running back position, but Cam Ward is in a prime position. He's a veteran guy that's played in a lot of football games, that started in football games, and knows what it takes in order to run the football effectively. So I look at the New Orleans Saints offense. You look at the young quarterbacks. You look at Spencer Rattler, Tyler Shuck. One of those guys are going to end up being a starting quarterback. But whoever it is, they're going to need a good support system around them. They say the best friend for a young quarterback is a good defense in a running game. The Saints are trying to get their defense to be that defense that they were a couple of years ago, where you couldn't run against them, couldn't pass against them, was stout on all areas, from the front forward to the secondary. They're trying to get back to that, and that can help these young guys out tremendously, but also the running game. You start getting the running game going, you get your offensive line together. It seems like the Saints have that the rotation of the offensive linemen they want to be their starters. It's pretty much been the same guys playing the same positions since the start of OTAs. So if you can get that running game going, you can get Devin Neal going, a young guy. You can get Alvin Kamara going, Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the backfield, and you could, add Cam Akers. Yeah, you can have yourself a very formidable running back room. Now, I don't know if you're going to be able to keep all these guys. All of these running backs are not going to be on the active roster, but if we're talking about clean slate, because if you look at it, everybody is starting anew. You can be in year 7 or you can be in year 1. You're still learning a new playbook. You still have Kellen Moore trying to implement his offense. So everybody's on an equal playing field when it comes to the knowledge of the offense. Everybody's trying to pick it up on their own. So if Cam Akers can come in and show flashes and do some things, make some plays, and also show that he can be a threat in some of these preseason games that's going to be coming up in the next couple of weeks, that is how I feel like he can make the team, because everybody knows how talented he is when he is healthy. Question is, have those injuries that he had taken a toll, or will he be able to bounce back and show that Warriors mentality the way he did during minicamp? Let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore decided that he wanted to cancel the final day of minicamp, which a lot of coaches do, especially when they feel that the team had a really, good few days of practice, right? They decide that they want to build some morale. They want to build some team camaraderie, so to speak. So they go out into the field, they do things together, and that's what the New Orleans Saints did. Hunter Deckers made a 3-point shot. Hunter Deckers was selected by offensive captain Juwan Johnson to take the shot. He made the shot, and because of that, they canceled practice. So they end up going to a local golf, I think a local golf facility where guys can kind of mingle, hang out. So that was a good move by Kellen Moore. I think it also builds team morale, and it also gets these guys excited about him. And I said this before last week on Saints Talk. Kellen Moore is basically building his head coaching resume by everything that he is doing. I have an appreciation for Kellen Moore in this regard. He is trying to do things differently. If you have been a Saints fan since 2006, not much has changed about the organization, from the figureheads, from General Manager Mickey Loomis, Gail Benson, Dennis Lauscher, the team president. They're pretty much the same individuals around them. The same way of thinking, right? Even though Sean Payton and Drew Brees have been gone for half a decade, they pretty much are still trying to do things the same way they were doing when Sean Payton and Drew Brees were with the team. But as we know, Sean Payton and Drew Brees are no longer on the team, and the Saints are trying to figure out who they are and what they are post Drew Brees and Sean Payton. Kellen Moore is coming in with a different philosophy. Now, I've said this before also. I don't know if this is going to work. People ask me, man, you think that Kellen Moore is going to work out? And I kindly respond to them and tell them I don't know. But I have an appreciation for Kellen Moore trying to do things differently. One thing that benefits Kellen Moore is that he is a former player. He understands the grind of these offseason activities. He's been in the locker room where conversations were had about, oh man, I'm hot, I'm tired, man. I'm really out here giving it my all. And, he's hearing these guys. And he also understands the needs of players. He also is helping himself by allowing players to be themselves, listening to them, giving them an opportunity. Oh, you're satisfied being right here within reason, right? He's allowing players to be able to speak and him giving them positive feedback and giving these guys an opportunity to sink or swim. I like how he says that everybody has a clean slate. No matter what type of personality you have, no matter what type of beef you had with former head coach, strength and conditioning coach, position coach, none of that stuff matters. Everybody comes in, clean sheet of paper. You put the work in, I guarantee you're going to see the field. All this stuff is going to help Kellen Moore by showing players that you actually care about them, that you appreciate them, not just looking at them like, oh, these are the individuals that's going to save my job. And, I'm not going to think about their body. I'm not going to look at some of the things like, how long have they been running? I'm not going to look at the technology and see how their heart rate is going, to possibly maybe give them a rest day or maybe kind of peeling it back a little bit. Those things matter. Going up to a player telling you, hey, man, I noticed you ran such and such miles this week. We want to keep it within this. Paying attention to the needs of the players and also understanding that their body and them being available is going to keep you around. Not so much about just wearing them down and beating them down to the ground and expect for those guys to go out there and respond to help you save your job. Kellen Moore understands that. He's a player's coach. Now, once again, I don't know how this is going to work out. This might be the best decision in the history of the National Football League. Kellen Moore might end up being, the next Sean Payton. May even be able to, just surpass Sean Payton when it comes to the accolades. I don't know. But right now, he's doing things the right way because he's doing things his way. Getting coaches that understand him and he understands them as far as, where they've been. Probably some of the guys on the staff have been, mentors to him, like offensive coordinator Doug Nussmeier, Scott Linehan, who was offensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys during the time where Kellen Moore was the quarterback's coach, bringing him along, bringing Brandon Staley, the former head coach of the Chargers, who gave him an opportunity at offensive coordinator when Brandon Staley was the Chargers head coach. He gave Kellen Moore an opportunity to be the offensive coordinator for the Chargers. So, he's bringing guys that he trusts, bringing in a new strength and conditioning coaches that pay attention to the technology and the analytics. And I have to say, I have not seen too many players on the injury report for the New Orleans Saints, which is refreshing. Pretty much the same usual suspects that you already knew who's probably not going to practice, like Foster Moreau, who had a knee injury the last game of the season, and also Taysom Hill, who had a ACL tear the game before the final game of the season. So those players you knew weren't going to be out there, but to know that, okay, there's no injuries to report, that's pretty refreshing, and that tells you that this guy understands and knows what he's doing. They go to 504, once again, a local golf facility. They go out there, they take a few shots, hang around, eat some chicken wings. I believe Alvin Kamara owns the place, so I'm pretty sure he's happy with the kickback. But but that's what you want to do. You want to build this team up, man, because it's going to be a long grind. And when you start to get into the season, maybe you're starting to get that playoff push. I don't know. I know a lot of prognosticators have the New Orleans Saints not winning a lot of football games, and that's understandable. But let's just say, the camaraderie, the kinship, all that stuff worked in the offseason, and guys are fighting for one another. The strength and conditioning program is working. You got the majority of your starters out there playing a good percentage of the time. Things are clicking on all cylinders, and maybe you running into, the part of your schedule where teams start to figure out who they are and they start playing some really good football. And being that coach that stands by your players, sticks by them, understands them, that is going to make that player want to go harder for you in those clutch situations that may involve you having a playoff push or trying to win the division. So Kellen Moore, to me, is playing a long game. He's building up equity every single time and every decision that he makes. But once again, I feel refreshed as an onlooker of somebody that has been a fan of this team since I was a young child, that he is doing something different than what we are accustomed to seeing. No disrespect to Sean Payton and Drew Brees and what they built. That was the greatest era of Saints football ever. But all things must come to an end. And you can't continue to try to find individuals that rubbed up against Sean Payton, knew Drew Brees, and trying to reinvent a moment in time that you can never, ever have back. So good for Kellen Moore. I'm interested to see how this is going to, continue. How is this going to affect his coaching style? When the season starts, how is that going to affect the team? So it's going to be fun to watch. It's good to know that I don't know what's going to happen around the Saints facility. It's been a long time since I felt that way. And also, speaking of the Saints facility, you had two individuals who ended up getting into the New Orleans Saints Hall of Fame. One of those individuals is cornerback Tracy Porter. Now, I don't need to tell you, if you're a modern day Saints fan, who Tracy Porter, who he was, and what he brought to the table. I mean, you can arguably say he is responsible for two of the greatest New Orleans Saints plays in the history of the franchise. Back in 2009, the NFC Championship game, Saints versus the Minnesota Vikings. Brad Favre, he rolls to his right, throws the ball back across the middle, and Tracy Porter picks it off, forcing overtime. That game looked like the Vikings were going to go down the field and they were going to kick a field goal. And the kicker that they had, dude, was pretty automatic, right? I mean, it was pretty much automatic that he was going to end up making that field goal. But Tracy Porter ended up picking the ball off, forcing overtime. The Saints hold on. They get the ball first. They drive down the field. Garrett Hartley kicks a 40-yard field goal, sends the Saints to the Super Bowl 44. They take on the Indianapolis Colts. The second, play that Tracy Porter made, in my opinion, the greatest play in New Orleans Saints history, the pick six to seal the deal against the Indianapolis Colts. Picked off Peyton Manning, takes it back 71 yards, touchdown, and the New Orleans Saints are able to hold off the Indianapolis Colts. So congratulations to Tracy Porter. He is one of the best cornerbacks the Saints ever had. Is he the best cornerback the Saints ever had? Nah, no, he's not, right? But he gave Saints fans two of the greatest memories in the history of the franchise. So nothing but love for Tracy Porter. He deserves to be in the Saints Hall of Fame. And the second player is Brett Maxey. Brett Maxey was a safety for the New Orleans Saints back in the day. He was a guy who, a lot of people respect. I'm going to go ahead and read his resume here. He started off, played for the New Orleans Saints back in 1985 to 1993. We're not going to hold this against him. He played against the Falcons back in played for the Falcons in 94. Still not going to, still going to look past this. But he also went to the Carolina Panthers. So he pretty much played for every team in NFC South with the exception of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And he finished up his career with the 49ers back in 1997. He was, in 1998, a quality control coach and defensive back coach. That's where he started his coaching career. I'll go ahead and I'll just save I just encourage you to check out his resume. I'll fast forward a little bit. I will, kind of cut this short, but he is the defensive backs coach currently for the Houston Roughnecks. He started back in 2024, and he's doing that right now and doing a really good job. Really good, hefty resume. Has traveled a lot. It looked like his calling card has been defense, coaching defensive backs. So congratulations to Brad Maxey, who, was a solid New Orleans Saints player. I wasn't old enough to really appreciate him as a player, but, listening to my grandmother, who is a huge Saints fan, talk about him, I could tell you she will tell you that he was one of her favorite players when, back in the day when he was actually playing. So congratulations to Brett Maxey, and also congratulations to Tracy Porter, making the Saints Hall of Fame. As the Saints Hall of Fame starts to roll along throughout the years, you're going to hear more familiar names, because, I tell people all the time, being a New Orleans Saints fan back in the 90s, it was an acquired taste. They were not very good. So you didn't have like a lot of players from that era that were worth celebrating. I mean, you had Ricky Jackson and Von Johnson and Pat Swilling and Sam Mills, guys like that. But you're going to start to see more of those 2010 players seeing their name in a Ring of Honor. You're going to start seeing, guys that you recognize, Marshawn Lattimore, Alvin Kamara, maybe Marcus Williams, it goes without saying, Cam Jordan. You're going to start to see players that you recognize, Ryan Ramczyk. So, the Saints really start to change their history in the way that they were looked at around the National Football League from 2006 to the present. That's when you start to see players that are worth talking about, and not just being great players on the Saints team, but great players if you match them up with anybody in the National Football League. So the Saints Hall of Fame over the next couple of years are going to be full of dogs and key contributors and players that have been all pros and Super Bowl champions like Tracy Porter. Congratulations to both guys. But this has been Saints Talk with Timothy J. Jones. Really do appreciate it. Much love to you. Hope you enjoyed the show. And if you enjoyed the show, we do this every single Wednesday. So make sure you stop by. 7 p.m. is the normal time. We're doing it a little bit earlier today, but 7 p.m. is when we do this show every single week. So make sure that you come on by. Make sure you download the Bleacher Report app so you won't miss Saints Talk. And make sure you follow the Saints. When you go to the Bleacher Report app, select the New Orleans Saints, you'll see this good-looking face right here. And also, you can check me out on the State of the Saints podcast. It's a podcast that talks about the New Orleans Saints. We do interviews. You can check that out on youtube.com. Search the State of the Saints podcast. And you can follow me on X at TJAY Jones 8. Till next time, all I got to say is, who dat?